Hello.
I was only home for the weekend, just a short break from campus life. A chance to eat something other than microwave noodles, catch up on sleep, and let my mom spoil me a little before finals kicked in. I wasn't planning on doing much else. But Saturday morning, just after breakfast, she asked me for a favor. "Can you stop by Dana's place today?" she said, pouring herself another cup of coffee. She said something's wrong with one of her windows. It won't close properly, and she's worried about the storm tonight. I told her you're good with that kind of stuff. Dana. I remembered her instantly. She'd been around for years, my mom's close friend, and one of the few adults I actually liked growing up. She never talked down to me, never asked a million questions like most of my mom's other friends. Just smiled, said something smart or funny, and went on with her day. I hadn't seen her much since I left for college. Maybe a quick wave through the car window around the holidays. That was it. Sure, I said, mostly out of habit. Her house was just 2 doors down. Same street, same layout. I walked over that afternoon with my hoodie on and toolbox in hand. Clouds were already rolling in above the rooftops, thick and gray. The kind of sky that promises more than it's ready to give. Yet, I knocked twice on her door. It opened just a few seconds later, and there she was. Dana. She looked different, and not at the same time. Her hair was pulled back in a loose bun, a few strands falling over her face. She wore a soft linen top and jeans, barefoot on the hardwood floor. The years had added something to her, not age, not exactly. More like weight, not physical but emotional. Something deeper in her eyes. Something that made you want to ask how she was, even if you didn't know how to phrase it. "Hey," she said with a soft smile. "You got taller." I grinned. "You say that like I stopped growing at 14. She laughed, stepping aside. "Come in. Thank you for coming over. Your mom said you wouldn't mind." "No problem," I said, walking in. The house smelled like lemon cleaner and something faintly floral, lavender maybe. Familiar and calming. "The window's in the guest room," she said, leading me down the hall. "It keeps sliding open. I think the lock is loose or the frame's warped. I don't know. I'll take a look." As she walked ahead of me, I noticed how the house felt. Still, clean, but quiet in that way empty houses are, like the silence had lived there a little too long. The window was a side slider, not too complicated. I kneeled and opened the latch, checked the alignment. She stood nearby, arms crossed loosely, watching. "You still good with tools?" she asked. "I get by. Better than Mason, at least." She smiled at that. "That's not a high bar." I laughed softly. "Yeah, I know." I tightened the screws, adjusted the track, tested it a few times. It worked fine now. Simple fix. "You're good," I said, standing. "It shouldn't move anymore." "Thank you," she said. Her eyes lingered a little longer than I expected. "You've grown into someone really solid. I don't just mean physically." I shrugged. "College will do that to you." A pause hung between us. Not awkward, just something. Outside, thunder rolled far off in the distance. The wind started to pick up. She glanced toward the hallway. "Storm's moving in faster than they said," she muttered. "I should go check the back windows too. Would you mind?" "Not at all." We walked through the house together. I helped her lock one window in the kitchen, another in her bedroom. By the time we circled back toward the front, the rain had started. Light at first, then quickly heavier, turning the front porch slick and gray. And then came the sound. Clack. Dana turned toward the front door. "Was that?" I tried the handle. It didn't budge. She frowned. No way. I twisted it again. Locked. Not by hand, but automatically. The wind must have slammed the door and triggered the latch. The kind of modern lock that only opened from the outside with a key or a button press. I think it locked us in, I said, trying not to laugh. Dana groaned softly. Oh no. I usually leave the side unlocked, but I just locked it when we did the windows. I didn't think. It's okay, I said, holding my hands up. It's not like we're trapped forever. Still, she said, brushing hair from her face. It's a little ridiculous. I looked out the front window. Rain poured in steady sheets now. The wind had picked up, pushing branches back and forth like dancers in slow motion. Well, I said, turning toward her. Looks like we're stuck here. Together. She met my gaze and gave a crooked smile. I guess there are worse people to be locked in with. She walked to the kitchen and grabbed a kettle. I'll make tea. You're not getting out of here anytime soon. As the water began to heat and the rain beat harder against the windows, I realized something strange. I didn't mind being stuck at all. In fact, part of me was glad for the storm. The sound of the rain deepened, soft and constant like a blanket wrapping around the house. It wasn't violent, just steady, like it had nowhere else to go, and neither did we. Dana poured the hot water into 2 mismatched mugs, one with a chipped rim and the words "coffee first" faded on the side, the other a plain white one. She handed me the plain one and sat down across from me at the small kitchen table. A candle flickered gently between us. She must have lit it without me noticing. This is chamomile, she said, brushing her hair back behind one ear. Not fancy, but it helps. I nodded and took a sip. It was warm and calming. The kind of tea you don't really taste, just feel. We sat in quiet for a minute or so, neither of us checking our phones, neither reaching for distraction. This house is too quiet, she said, more to her cup than to me. Ever since I got divorced, I swear the walls echo more. I looked up. She wasn't crying. Her voice was steady, but her eyes carried something heavier than the words. I didn't even realize how loud the silence could be until I started waking up to it every morning. I didn't know what to say, not at first, so I said what was true. I think that's why my mom talks to you so much. She feels the same. Dana gave a soft smile. Your mom and we lean on each other in different ways. But even then, it's not the same as just someone being here. She looked at me for a moment, then looked away again quickly. I'm sorry. That was too honest. No, I said. It wasn't. She let out a slow breath and smiled again. Smaller this time, a little more genuine. You always listened well, even when you were 12 and covered in dirt from the backyard. I chuckled. I guess I never grew out of that. You definitely did, she said, and for a moment her eyes lingered again. You're not the little boy who used to eat 6 waffles in one sitting anymore. I laughed softly. I still could, just with better manners now. We sipped our tea. Outside, thunder rolled low in the distance again. The lights flickered once, then again. Great, she muttered. Power's about to go. And then, just like that, the room went dim. Lights off. Refrigerator silent. Only the candle and the storm remained. She looked up at me and raised an eyebrow. Well, now it's officially a sleepover. I smiled. Do you have any flashlights? One in the hallway closet. Unless it's dead, which it probably is. I stood. I'll check. She followed me out, holding her candle like a lantern. In the hallway, the air felt cooler, the house older. I found the flashlight. It worked barely, flickering like it couldn't decide whether to die or not. We lit 2 more candles and brought them to the living room. The flickering light danced across the shelves and the photos on the walls. Pictures of her with her ex-husband, one of Mason as a baby, another of a family barbecue from years ago. I recognized my own mom in the background of that one, laughing with a glass of lemonade in her hand. Funny how all these pictures feel like someone else's life now, Dana said quietly. We sat on the couch. A folded blanket rested on the armrest. She pulled it over her lap and offered me the other end. I accepted. You don't have to stay if it gets weird, she said after a moment. It's not weird. I don't have a lot of people I can sit like this with. I looked at her. Maybe you need fewer people, not more. She gave me a curious look, then laughed. That's dangerously close to something profound. I've been practicing. We sat like that for a while, candlelight, blanket, rain. She leaned back into the couch and exhaled slowly. I always thought I'd feel more put together by this age, she said. Like there's a version of adulthood no one taught me how to reach. Maybe it's not about being put together. Maybe it's about knowing how to fall apart without losing yourself. She turned to me slowly, her expression soft. You sound older than 20. Some days I feel it. Another long silence passed, but it wasn't heavy this time. It was full, comfortable, charged with something unspoken. Her hand moved to adjust the blanket, and it brushed against mine briefly. She didn't pull away. You know, she said after a beat, I used to worry that I was slowly disappearing, not physically, just like I'd become background in my own life. You're not background, I said gently. You're more present than most people I know. She looked at me, really looked. Thank you, she whispered. I saw it then, not just her, but the space between who she had been and who she was now. I saw the cracks she'd hidden and the light that came through them. I saw the way she carried loneliness like a quiet suitcase, always near, always packed. And for the first time, I didn't see her as just my mom's friend. I saw her as a woman. She must have seen something shift in my face, because her voice came quieter now. You're not just being kind, are you? No, I said. I'm not. She swallowed, and for a second, her hand moved closer again, resting near mine beneath the blanket. Then she smiled, small and soft. It's late. Yeah. She stood slowly. The guest room's probably too cold with no power. My room stays warmer. You can bring a pillow in if you want. I nodded. Okay. She paused in the hallway, one candle in hand, her back slightly turned. I'll leave the door open. And she did. And I followed with the flashlight dimming in my hand and something new, something unspoken, flickering inside me just as quietly. Her bedroom felt different. Not in a romanticized way, not candlelit or perfumed like in movies, but in a way that felt deeply lived in. There was a book on the nightstand, half-read and spine-worn, a ceramic dish with earrings and a single broken chain, a laundry basket half full in the corner, a sweater draped over the chair by the window. It wasn't staged, and maybe that's what made it feel real. She set the candle down on her dresser, casting a warm, low glow across the room. I stood by the door, unsure of where to look or how to act. Relax, she said, her voice soft but amused. It's just a room. You've seen bedrooms before. Not like this, I said without thinking. She looked at me, and for a split second, there was tension, real tension. Not heavy, but unmistakable. A thread pulled tight, waiting. Then she smiled, sat down on the bed, and patted the other side. Just sit. You don't have to hover like a statue. I sat carefully, as if any movement might tip something off balance. We didn't talk for a moment. The only sounds were the rain still tapping the windows and the distant hum of thunder. The house had settled into itself. No creaks, no outside world. Just her and me. "Do you remember when you broke your arm?" she asked suddenly. I blinked. "When I was 8? You were playing superhero on your mom's coffee table," she said, laughing softly. "Jumped off with a cape made from a towel. Landed badly. You were the one who drove me to the hospital," I said, smiling at the memory. "My mom was freaking out. She was worse than you." I chuckled. "I cried the whole way." "No," she said, shaking her head. "You were brave. Scared, yeah, but brave. You kept asking me if they were going to cut the arm off." I laughed harder at that. I was dramatic. She looked over, smiling, then her face softened. "You were this skinny, scrappy little thing, but you had these big eyes, always watching, always listening. You noticed more than people thought." She paused. "You still do." I turned toward her slightly, surprised at how close we were. We hadn't moved, and yet the distance felt smaller than a breath. "I'm not who I used to be either," she said. I didn't answer, not yet. She reached up and slowly took out her hair tie, letting her dark waves fall over her shoulders. It wasn't performative. It was simple, but in the quiet of that room, it felt like a declaration. "I never thought I'd feel seen again," she continued. "Not by someone who isn't just being polite." "You're more than seen," I said, my voice low. "You're unforgettable." She blinked, once, slowly, like she needed that moment to settle over her before responding. Then, gently, "You shouldn't say things like that if you don't mean them." "I do." A pause. She shifted slightly, her knee brushing against mine. "Do you know what this is?" she asked. Her voice was almost a whisper now. "I think so." "Then say it." I swallowed. My heart beat hard in my chest. "It's not just one night. It's not about being locked in. It's about finally noticing what was always there." Her breath caught, and then, without a word, she leaned forward. Not rushed, not dramatic, just close, and closer. Her forehead touched mine, and for a few seconds the world stopped spinning. The kiss, when it came, wasn't urgent. It was soft, searching, like a question being asked and answered all at once. Her hand rested against my cheek, warm and steady. When we pulled back, neither of us spoke. There was no need. She stood first, walked over to the window, and peeked through the curtain. "It's still pouring," she said. "No chance of the power coming back for a while." "I don't mind," I said. She turned toward me, smile curling at the corner of her mouth. "I know." She walked back and sat beside me again. We didn't kiss again right away. We didn't need to. The space between us had changed. There was no going back to the moment before. Eventually, she reached over and pulled the blanket up over both of us. "If this is a dream," she said quietly, "don't wake me." "It's not," I replied. "But even if it was, I wouldn't want to wake up either." She closed her eyes, resting her head gently on my shoulder. And for the first time in a long time, for both of us, the storm didn't feel like something to fear. It felt like something that brought us home. When I woke up, the room was bathed in a soft, gray light. The storm had finally passed, and what remained was that pale, early morning stillness. the kind that only comes after a long night of rain. I could hear birds outside and the faint dripping of water from the gutters. The power was still out. Dana was still asleep beside me, her breathing slow and even. The blanket had slipped slightly from her shoulder, so I carefully pulled it back up. For a moment, I just looked at her. Peaceful, warm, real. Everything that had happened the night before was still there. Not a dream, not a mistake. It lived in the air between us, in the soft curve of her lips, in the quiet way her hand had remained close to mine all night. I got up without waking her and walked to the kitchen, moving quietly through the house. It still smelled faintly of the candle wax and chamomile. I opened a window to let in some of the fresh morning air, then found the matches and lit a new candle. Eventually, I heard movement from down the hallway, soft footsteps, a drawer opening, then the sound of the bathroom door closing. A few minutes later, Dana stepped into the kitchen. She wore a simple robe now, the same one from last night, and her hair was pulled back loosely. She didn't speak at first, just gave me a small, warm smile as she walked to the counter and poured herself a glass of water. "I thought maybe you'd leave before sunrise," she said finally, voice soft. "No way," I said. "I didn't want to disappear on you." She nodded, thoughtful. "That's good." We sat at the table again, across from each other like we had the night before. But it felt different now, more open, more grounded. "About last night," she began. I raised my hand gently. "Let me go first?" She smiled slightly. "Okay. I don't regret it," I said. "Not 1 second of it. And I don't think you do either." "I don't," she said immediately, then paused. "But it's complicated." "I know. She's your mom. I'm her friend. That doesn't exactly scream normal, does it?" I laughed softly. "Since when has anything about me ever been normal?" Dana gave a small, breathy laugh, then turned serious again. "I don't want to be something you look back on like a mistake." "You won't be," I said firmly. "You're not." She looked into her glass. "I've spent so long thinking my time for something new had passed, that I'd missed it." "You didn't miss anything. I think maybe it was just waiting for the right moment." Another silence, but this time it was the calm kind. Not hesitation, not fear, just space to breathe. "I'm not asking for anything," she said eventually. "Not promises, not complications." "What if I want complications?" I said. "What if I'm not scared of this?" She looked at me, really looked, then reached across the table and touched my hand lightly. Her fingers were warm. "I'm not scared either," she said. We sat like that for a long while. The house still without power. No buzzing, no phones. Just us, the morning, and something new unfolding between us. Eventually, I stood. "I should go," I said. "Not because I want to, just because I think I need to breathe a little before I talk to my mom." Dana stood too, wrapping the robe tighter around herself, like the moment was slipping too fast. "Will I see you again?" she asked, quieter than before. I smiled. "Of course. I still have that jacket." She laughed. The real kind this time, a little brighter. "Right? The jacket." I walked to the front door and opened it. The world outside was washed clean. Wet streets, fresh air, sunlight trying to break through the clouds. Before I stepped out, I turned back. She was leaning against the doorframe now, watching me. "Take care, Dana." "You too." I hesitated just for a second. Then I stepped out and walked toward the sidewalk, heart full of something I hadn't expected to find when I knocked on that door. And somewhere behind me, I knew she was still standing there, watching me walk away, just like I knew I'd be back. Because some doors, once closed, never stay closed for long.
Bye bye.